Hello, sports fans. It is Wednesday, December the 26th, the year 2012, and as usual, a lot to get to in the sports world, so let's get it going right now. I hope everyone had a happy holiday. Hope everyone had a nice weekend. Let's recap what happened in the NFL. Believe it or not, we are through week 16 of the NFL season. One more week to go, then we're in the playoffs. Hard to believe. All right, let's start with the Saturday night game. The Atlanta Falcons beat Detroit 31-18 in Detroit. Atlanta up to 13-2, having a marvelous season. They clinched top seed in the NFC. Detroit having a despicable, deplorable, embarrassing season at 4-11. I feel like I've watched the same Lion game for 15 weeks. They have almost 500 yards of offense, yet they can't get the ball in the end zone. They turn the ball over all the time. Their defense can't stop anyone. Their special teams is even worse. Schwartz has done a terrible job coaching this team. They're soft. Terrible job by Detroit. Johnson did set the receiving record for Detroit, so props to him. He broke Jerry Rice's record, so nice job by him. I like Johnson, but Detroit overall just despicable this year, and a nice job by Atlanta getting top seed, 13-2, tremendous record. You know what sums up this game? Couple minutes to go, 31-16 Atlanta. Detroit gets a safety, makes it 31-18, so Atlanta's got a punt to Detroit. Atlanta punts the ball, they get a nice punt off. The Detroit punt returner, Logan, catches the ball at the 5. Now you're down 13 with about a couple minutes to go. What does he do when he catches the ball at the 5? Takes a knee. Takes a knee. Takes a knee. Down 13 with a couple minutes to go at his own 5, he takes a knee and sits at the 5-yard line. I think he said he thought he was in the end zone. I mean, does that not sum up Detroit? I mean, just awful. Detroit next week, home for Chicago, trying to end Chicago's season. Atlanta home for Tampa. Let's move on. All right, let's go down to the Big D, Dallas. The New Orleans Saints upset the Dallas Cowboys 34-31 in overtime. The Saints go up to 7-8. The Cowboys drop to 8-7. The Cowboys are another one. I feel like I watch the same game every week. They fall behind. They try and rally. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. This week they didn't. Every week the Cowboys are down by double figures and they try and rally. A lot of the times they catch up. It's just amazing. Dallas plays the same game every week. Unbelievable. It's also unbelievable that Dallas at 8-7 still has a chance to win the division. They beat Washington this week. They win the division, go to the playoffs. So all these awful losses by Dallas, I mean, they're still in it. And I'll tell you what. We all love the stadium down there in Dallas with the big screen, and they get 100,000 people in the retractable dome. Dallas has no home field advantage there. They lose home games all the time there. I mean, Dallas down 31-17. They rally to tie it at 31. We go to overtime. Dallas gets the ball first. The Saints stop them. Saints get the ball back, go down the field. They complete a pass. The Saints actually fumble, but they actually recover the ball down inside the 5-yard line of Dallas. From there, the Saints kick the game-winning field goal. Nice job by the Saints. They're still fighting. We know they've had a lost season with all the problems they've had. Nice job by the Saints there. Dallas, like I said, still in it. Dallas goes to Washington next week, and if Dallas wins that game, they go to the playoffs. Saints next week, home for Carolina. Let's move on. Let's go to Kansas City. The Indianapolis Colts beat the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead 20-13. The Indianapolis Colts go to the playoffs. They go to 10-5. Just a great job by the Colts. Unbelievable job by Luck. I mean, the coaching staff really held it together when the head coach was out. He will be back this week. Tremendous job by the Colts. I mean, what a tremendous job. They give away Peyton Manning. They draft Luck. And here they are back in the playoffs. And the Kansas City Chiefs, another one of these teams that can't get out of their way. Kansas City outgained Indianapolis 507 to 288 in total yards, yet they lost by 7 and only scored 13 points. And why? 3 turnovers. Brady Quinn gets down there, interception, turnovers all over the place. Kansas City, a miserable season. I mean, I don't know where they're going. I don't love Brady Quinn. I don't love Castle. Their defense is horrible. Their special teams hasn't played well. I mean, they have a decent running game. They can never get the ball in the end zone. I don't like anything I saw from Kansas City this year. 2-13. 2-13. I mean, they're down there with Jacksonville. Worst records in the league. Awful job by Kansas City. Next week, Indianapolis home for Houston. Believe it or not, that's a bigger game for Houston than Indianapolis. Houston trying to hang on to the top seed. Kansas City at Denver. A good night, Kansas City. You're not winning that game either. Let's move on. Let's go down to South Florida. Let's go to Miami. The Miami Dolphins beat the Buffalo Bills 24-10. Dolphins go up to 7-8. Nice competitive season by the Dolphins. I like Tannehill. The Dolphins have made some progress this year. Are they great? No. They've made some progress, and I do like Tannehill. How about the Buffalo Bills at 5-10? What planet are the Bills on? I mean, I heard all off season how they had this great defense coming in. They signed Mario Williams, and no one's going to be able to move the ball on them. They look terrible. They lose this week to Miami. They lost last week up in Toronto where they got just ambushed by Seattle. I mean, Buffalo looks like one of the worst teams in the league. They look atrocious. And I don't love Fitzpatrick at quarterback. Why the Bills signed him to a big contract is beyond me. I just don't like him at all. So Miami gets the job done here. Miami at New England next week. Buffalo home for the Jets. That's a beauty. Let's move on. Let's go to the Meadowlands. Speaking of the Jets, the San Diego Chargers beat the New York Jets 27-17. Chargers go to 6-9. Jets go down to 6-9. I mean, the Chargers had 11 sacks in this game. 11. Not 5, not 6, not 7. 11 sacks in the game. Is that even possible? How do you get 11 sacks in the game? Jets, all kinds of problems. I mean, McElroy didn't play well. Now, who knows if you're going to trade Sanchez. Tebow now wants out. He wants to go to Jacksonville. He's from Jacksonville. Tebow refusing to run the Wildcat. Now there's rumors that they might bring in Mike Vick. I mean, maybe Smith from San Francisco. Jets, all kinds of problems. Terrible job by Rex Ryan. I don't even know where to begin with the Jets. Where do you even start with them? How do you even rebuild this mess of a team? I mean, you got to start by bringing in a decent quarterback here or drafting a quarterback or something. But my goodness, the quarterbacks they have now all can't play. So the San Diego gets to win there. Let's please move on. I can't talk about the Jets in San Diego anymore. All right, let's go to Philadelphia. The Washington Redskins beat the Philadelphia Eagles 27-20 in Philly. Washington up to 9-6. They lead the division. Philadelphia just a lost season 4-11. We know Andy Reid's gone. We know Mike Vick is probably gone. I think Vick is going to play this week for the Eagles because Foles, I think, broke his hand. So we'll see about that. Washington. Can you say anything bad about them? Robert Griffin III and the Redskins keep getting it done. They were 3-6. They've won 6 in a row. They're 9-6. They win this week. They win the division. And if they lose, they still could get into the playoffs if a couple teams help them out. So the Redskins and Shanahan, and I was on them at the beginning of the year. I said, oh, they're 3-6. They're falling apart. I mean, the Redskins have done a tremendous job, one of the best jobs in the league. You can't say anything bad about Washington. Like I said, Washington, home for Dallas on Sunday night. Huge game, big rivalry, must-watch TV. Philadelphia at the Giants. Giants still mathematically involved, alive. We'll get to them in a second. But that's where we are at that game. Washington gets the job done. Let's move on. Let's go to Pittsburgh. The Cincinnati Bengals beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 13-10. The Bengals make the playoffs at 9-6. The Steelers are out at 7-8. What happened to the Steelers? The Steelers, about 4 weeks ago, with Charlie Batch, went into Baltimore and won, and they were 7-5. Roethlisberger comes back from the injury. They lose to San Diego. They lose 3 in a row. They lose to Cincinnati here. I mean, what in the world happened to Pittsburgh? They blew a game in Dallas the week before this one. I mean, Roethlisberger, once he came back, didn't look like the same quarterback. He was playing great up until his injury, and he just has played atrocious the last 3 weeks. This game was on him all the way. 2 interceptions, 1 run back for a touchdown. He basically gave Cincinnati 10 of their 13 points. Roethlisberger, he must be ailing. He's a better quarterback than this. I mean, the Steelers at 10-10 had the ball with time running out, and Roethlisberger throws a terrible interception. Cincinnati gets it near midfield. They run one play to A.J. Green. They hit him on the sidelines. He gets out of bounds. From there, field goal. Good night, Steelers. Hello, Cincinnati. Cincinnati makes the playoffs. Pittsburgh, major problems on their offensive line. It seems every year the Steelers have problems on their offensive line, major injuries there. So the Steelers got to rework their whole offensive line, got to get the running back situation straightened out, and they got to protect Roethlisberger. He's a really good quarterback, but he's got to stay healthy. He obviously was banged up the last 3 weeks. Roethlisberger and the Steelers host Cleveland in a meaningless game this week. It is a big rivalry, though. Cincinnati home for Baltimore, both of those teams in the playoffs. Let's move on. Let's go down to Tampa Bay. The St. Louis Rams beat the Tampa Bay Bucks 28-13. St. Louis up to 7-1. Who would have ever thought it? What a tremendous job by Fisher. 7-1 for St. Louis. They have a chance to have a winning season. Are you kidding me? And Tampa Bay, they fell apart. They were 6-6. lost that heartbreaker to the Eagles. Then they get drilled by the Saints. They lose here. Quarterback throwing like 8 interceptions for Tampa Bay the last couple of weeks. Freeman, so he's looked bad. Tampa Bay's really fallen on their face the last couple of weeks. Shiano did have them playing good football for a while, but they've really hit the wall. This is all about St. Louis. Just a tremendous job by St. Louis. I really like what Fish has done. Tampa Bay at Atlanta next week. St. Louis at Seattle. Let's move on. Let's go down to Carolina. The Carolina Panthers at home beat Oakland 17-6. Carolina's won a few in a row now. They're 6-9. They've won 3 in a row. Oakland at 4-11. Palmer goes out. Believe it or not, Leinart checked into the game for Oakland. We knew once he got in the game, Oakland had no chance. Carolina gets the job done. They are playing better. Cam Newton playing better. Carolina at New Orleans this week. Oakland at San Diego in a miserable game. Let's go down to Jacksonville. The New England Patriots beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 23-16. Patriots up to 11-4. Jaguars 2-13. This was a surprising close game. I mean, Jacksonville had 430 total yards of offense. That's a lot. I mean, New England, I still don't love New England's defense. New England won this game because Jacksonville turned the ball over 3 times and they settled for a lot of field goals. But Jacksonville gave New England all they could handle this week. I still think New England's defense is going to bite them in a big spot. I love their offense. I love their coaching staff. They're always prepared. I don't love New England's defense. I think in a big spot on the road, that's what's going to get them. Next week, New England home for Miami, Jacksonville at Tennessee. Let's move on. Let's go to Houston. The Minnesota Vikings beat the Houston Texans in Houston 23-6. 23-6. Vikings at 9-6, holding on to that last playoff spot. Houston down to 12-3. Minnesota outgained Houston 345-187. Minnesota pushed Houston around here in their own building. I mean, what a tremendous job by Minnesota. Forster had to leave the game for Houston with a regular heartbeat. He says he's okay. We'll keep an eye on that. But how good has Minnesota played this year? Even though Adrian Peterson wasn't great this week, Minnesota has done a completely turnaround job this year. They won 3 games last year. They've tripled their win total up to 9, and they're leading the wild card. Minnesota beats Green Bay at home this week. Minnesota's in the playoffs. How many people would have thought that? Houston at Indianapolis this week. Houston trying to hang on to that top seed. I don't like what I'm seeing from Houston. I mean, I loved them at the beginning of the year. They are not the same team. They lost Kutchin on defense for the year. Joseph, since he got hurt, is not playing great. Their defense looks spotty. Offense, same thing. Houston not firing on all cylinders. I mean, keep that in mind. They're not playing their best football. Don't like what I see from Houston. Love what I see from Minnesota. Let's move on. Let's go to Denver. The Denver Broncos at home continue to roll. They beat the Cleveland Browns 34-12. Denver up to 12-3. That's 10 in a row for Denver. 10 in a row. Cleveland down to 5-10. Whedon hurt for Cleveland. Richardson hurt for Cleveland. Cleveland did have a few weeks where they were playing well. They've fallen back to their losing ways. Denver can do no wrong. 10 in a row. Manning playing great. Defense playing great. Denver, a major, major contender in the playoffs. Denver home for Kansas City next week. That's a win. Cleveland at Pittsburgh. Meaningless game, but a big rivalry. Let's move on. Let's go to the desert. The Chicago Bears keep their playoff hopes alive. They beat the Arizona Cardinals 28-13 in Arizona. Bears up to 9-6. Cardinals down to 5-10. Bears defense does it again. 2 touchdowns. I mean, Urlacher, they hope, will be back next week. Forte left with an ankle problem. We'll keep an eye on that. Bears at Detroit next week. Bears have to win, and then they need help. They need Minnesota to lose. Bears still alive. Arizona, I mean, what more can you say? I mean, they won last week against Detroit. Their offense is atrocious. Their quarterbacks are all playing bad. No offensive line. Running back's a problem. They do have a good defense. All sorts of problems with Arizona, though. They're at San Francisco next week, so we'll keep an eye on that. But Chicago, big, big game this week at Detroit. Chicago wins, Minnesota loses, and Chicago gets that last playoff spot. So let's move on from there. Let's go to Baltimore. The Baltimore Ravens beat the New York Giants 33-14 in Baltimore. Baltimore up to 10-5. They're going to the playoffs. Giants at 8-7 in major trouble. The Giants have been blasted 2 weeks in a row. They've been out of these games very quickly. Eli not playing well. Defense being shredded. They lose 34-0 to Atlanta last week. They come back and have the same type of performance here in Baltimore. Giants magic from last year has run out. Hard to do that 2 weeks in a row. Giants still alive. they need to beat Philly, and they need a bunch of things to happen. They need to win, they need Minnesota to lose, Chicago to lose, and they need Dallas to lose. So all sorts of things need to happen to break right for the Giants. I don't think it's going to happen, but they are still alive. Baltimore at Cincinnati next week. Like I said, Baltimore is in the playoffs. They do play better here this week after not playing well for a few weeks. Let's move on. Let's go to Seattle. This was the Sunday night game. The Seattle Seahawks at home just drubbed the San Francisco 49ers 42-13. Seattle up to 10-5. San Francisco down to 10-4-1. Seattle actually has a chance for the division if they win this week and San Francisco loses. San Francisco also just cost themselves the 2 seed in a bye week. Green Bay jumps them because of this loss. Seattle's the best team in the league at home, no doubt about it. Their fans are great. Always seems to be raining and foggy there. The noise really holds in that stadium, so the fans seem like they're right on top of you. This game was over early. It was 28-3 at one point. Nice job by Seattle. Seattle home for the Rams next week. San Francisco home for Arizona. You got to wonder about San Francisco playing Kaepernick. You know, he doesn't have much experience. San Francisco is a team that's ready to win now. Kaepernick is still, he still has growing pains. How far can you go with him? Very interesting decision to go with him. Do I think overall Kaepernick has more ability than Alex Smith? Yes. Alex Smith has more experience, though, so it's a tough call for Harbaugh. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's go to the last game of the day here. This was just a joke. Green Bay at home in historic Lambeau Field beats Tennessee 55-7. Nice job by Tennessee showing up here. Is this the NFL or is this Nebraska against Alcorn State? What kind of performance was this by Tennessee? I mean, this game was like 49-0 at the half. It was just a complete joke. I mean, Tennessee down to 5-10. They've had an awful year. I don't know about anything about Tennessee, where they go from here. I don't love Laka. They have Hasselbeck, who's old at the backup position. You can't go with him. I don't love their offense. Johnson, who has a big run every now and then, hasn't been great. Defense, not good. Lose 55-7, embarrassing. Green Bay with the win, goes up to the 2 seed. They jump San Francisco. Green Bay is dangerous, and they're getting hot. Green Bay, when they're firing on all cylinders, can beat anyone. They have Rodgers, the receivers. If they get their defensive guys back, Woodson, Matthews, they can force turnovers. Green Bay can beat anyone. They're a contender. They're getting hot. Watch out for Green Bay. Green Bay at Minnesota next week. Huge game for both teams. Green Bay trying to hang on to that 2 seed. Minnesota trying to make the playoffs. Tennessee next week, home for Jacksonville. That's a beauty of a game. Tennessee home for Jacksonville. I mean, is that must-watch TV? I mean, who's going to watch that game? How many people are going to be at that game? All right, so that's your games there in the NFL. Let's quickly go through the standings. Right now, as of right now in the AFC, Houston, 12-3 is your top seed. Your number 2 seed is Denver, 12-3. Houston's got to win to keep, hang on to that 1 seed. Denver still has a shot at that 1 seed if they win and Houston loses. Right now, Houston 1, Denver 2. That would be your 2 teams with buys. Right now, your number 3 seed is New England. They're 11-4. They still have a chance for the 2 seed. If Denver should slip up and New England wins, New England could get up there. Baltimore's your 4 seed. Baltimore could jump New England to the 3 if Baltimore wins and New England loses. So a lot to be played out right there. Right now, Houston 1, Denver 2, New England 3, Baltimore 4. Your wild cards, they're set. Indianapolis is your 5 seed. Cincinnati is your 6 seed. That is set. So that's your AFC picture. You know the teams, you just don't know the order. NFC a little more jumbled up. Atlanta Falcons have the top seed at 13-2. Green Bay hanging on to that 2 seed at 11-4, but have to win. San Francisco 11-4-1. They still have a shot at the 2 seed, but they need to win and hope Green Bay loses. Plus San Francisco only a half a game up for the division, so San Francisco has to win this week. They're the 3 seed right now. Right now, Washington, your 4 seed. Washington wins, they win the division. They lose, Dallas gets that 4 seed. Washington still would have a chance to make the playoffs. They would need a little help, though. Your wild card, Seattle right now is your wild card at 10-5. Still have a chance for the division. Minnesota right now is your 6 seed. They're hanging on to that. They're 9-6. They need to win, though. Chicago right there at 9-6. They need to win. Hope Minnesota loses. Dallas, they're 8-7. They win the division. They lose, they're out. Giants need to win, and they need basically everyone in front of them to lose. And the Giants have Philadelphia this week, so that's where you are as far as the NFC. NFC a little more jumbled, a few more teams that can make it in the NFC. AFC, you kind of know your teams, you just don't know the order. NFC, you still have a lot of possibilities here, so it should be a wild week in the NFC. We'll get to that all tomorrow as far as picks and all that kind of stuff. Let's transition a little bit. Let's go to the NBA. I last left you on Thursday. Let's recap what happened from Thursday on. Just a few games of note. On Thursday, Minnesota beat Oklahoma City. That was a nice win by Minnesota. You know, they ended Oklahoma City's long winning streak. Miami beat Dallas. So Dallas still struggling. They do get Dirk Nowitzki back, though. Friday, the Chicago Bulls went into Madison Square Garden and beat the Knicks. A lot of ejections in that game. Melo, Chandler, Woodson, Noah all got ejected in that game. Bulls with a nice win without Rose there. Saturday night, Atlanta, they beat Chicago. Nice win by Atlanta. That was a tough back-to-back for Chicago. Lakers won. They won at Golden State, which was a nice win. Nash and Gasol back. Lakers starting to play a little better. On Sunday, Brooklyn beat Philadelphia. The Knicks beat Minnesota. Minnesota didn't have love. And San Antonio destroyed Dallas. Like I said, Dirk Nowitzki is back, but he needs a little time to get back into the swing of things. There were no games Monday. Yesterday on Christmas Day, Boston beat Brooklyn in Brooklyn. Don't like what I'm seeing from Brooklyn recently. Lost a lot of home games. Lost a lot of games recently. I think they're 3-8 in their last 11. I'll tell you what, Darren Williams has to play better. Lopez has to play better. Johnson has to play better. And I'll tell you what, Avery Johnson, the coach, better watch out, because if anyone's going to go, it's going to be him. They're not going to get rid of all these players, especially Darren Williams. Watch out. Avery Johnson better start winning, or they are going to fire him, I'm telling you, because they can't get rid of Darren Williams. They just signed him to a long extension. So Avery Johnson, watch out. You better start winning some games. Lakers beat the Knicks in Los Angeles yesterday. Lakers have won 5 in a row. They're back to 500. They're 500 with D'Antoni. They are playing better. I still think they have problems. They are playing better, though. Miami, they beat Oklahoma City yesterday, so nice job by Miami. Oklahoma City still can't beat Miami. They lost to them in the finals last year, lose to them yesterday here. Miami's still just a little better than Oklahoma City, just slightly better down the stretch, so we'll keep an eye on that. Nice job by Miami there. Clippers continue their winning ways. They beat Denver yesterday in Los Angeles. Tonight in the NBA, you have Chicago at Indiana. You have Brooklyn at Milwaukee. You have the Lakers at Denver. You have Golden State at Utah. And you have the Knicks at Phoenix. Some of the games to keep an eye on in the NBA tonight. As far as college football, we had a few bowl games that went on over the weekend. On Thursday, the Poinsettia Bowl in San Diego. BYU beat San Diego State 23-6. San Diego State had 5 turnovers. They were winning this game 6-0, winning this game 6-3 in the fourth. Can't turn the ball over 5 times and expect to win. They did. They lost. The Beef O'Brady's Bowl in Tampa. Central Florida beat Ball State 38-17 in front of a small crowd there in Tampa. So Central Florida gets the win there. Saturday, the New Orleans Bowl. Louisiana Lafayette beats East Carolina 43-34. Record crowd for that game, 48,000. All Lafayette fans. Nice job by Lafayette. They're a small school. They traveled really well. Almost 50,000 people came out to watch that game, and that's a record. Now, I don't want to make it seem like it's a sellout. The Superdome, it seats like 70-something thousand, but 48,000 for Lafayette and East Carolina. Nice job by the Lafayette fans setting a record there and coming down to watch that game. The Las Vegas Bowl, which was also Saturday. Boise State continues their bowl-winning ways. They beat Washington 28-26. Last-minute field goal there. Boise State won 5 bowl games in a row. They always are up for these bowl games. Monday, I should say, in the Hawaii Bowl, SMU beat Fresno State 43-10. What an atrocious job by Fresno State. This was a game where SMU showed up and took the game seriously, and Fresno State basically was on vacation in Hawaii and didn't care about the game. Terrible job by Fresno State. I liked Fresno State this whole year. They had a nice rebound season. They had a nice record. They did not show up for this game. They said, oh, we're playing a 6-6 SMU team. We're playing in Hawaii. Oh, let's go to the beach. Let's take the game, easy. Let's, lay in the sand a little bit. No problem. We'll just throw our helmets on the field and beat SMU. Not so fast. SMU took the game seriously. SMU pounded them 43-10. Nice job by SMU. Terrible job by Fresno State. Tonight we have a little bowl, the Little Caesars Bowl in Detroit. Central Michigan against Western Kentucky. That's a tough one to watch even for me, who's a college football guy, and there's not a lot of sports going on tonight. That's a tough one for even me to watch. I'm sure there'll be a small crowd there in Detroit. I'm sure it'll be all Central Michigan fans. Tough watch, but you do have a bowl game tonight. As far as college basketball over the weekend, on Saturday, Temple upset Syracuse at Madison Square Garden. Nice job by Temple. Kansas went into Ohio State and beat Ohio State. Nice win for Kansas. Missouri beat Illinois in St. Louis. Really nice game there. 50-50 with the crowd. Half Illinois fans, half Missouri fans. Nice game. Missouri got the win. Michigan State won at home over Texas. Kansas State beat Florida in Kansas City. Florida's had a couple tough losses in a row. They lost a tough game to Arizona last week, a game they should have won, and then they come back here to Kansas City and they lose to K-State. So Florida, a couple tough losses in the last week. And last night in Hawaii, Arizona beat San Diego State 68-67 to win that tournament out there in Hawaii. Arizona's still undefeated. San Diego State does have a nice team, though. So that's where you kind of are as far as your sports. We kind of got caught up there. As far as tonight, like I said, you have this little bowl game. You have some NBA tonight. Tomorrow, here's what we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to go through the last week in the NFL. We're going to go through all the picks, who needs to win, who needs to lose. We'll go through each and every one of the games. I'll also go through the top 25 in college basketball. I'll also give you my State of the Union on the NBA. We'll go through all the NBA, see who's playing well, bad, mediocre, all that kind of stuff. So we should have a lot to do tomorrow. Okay, you guys enjoy the games tonight, NBA, bowl game, whatever you're watching tonight. You guys stay safe. Enjoy the games tonight. Thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you tomorrow, Thursday. You guys take care.